Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tailosive Tech Live on YouTube. Hope you're having a fantastic Friday. Happy November. Hope everyone had a safe Halloween, but I hope you're not too excited for the future of Apple because it's going to get pretty grim. Channel's going to have to go into hibernation mode, if you will. Hibernation mode doesn't actually mean anything. It essentially just means that Drew may have to get a bit more vague in the tech news he dives into because Apple's not giving us much to work with these days. That's fine. I don't care about it, but there's always things I could talk about. Probably the biggest problem with this channel, the reason videos are so long, is because Drew doesn't know how to shut up. But because of that, that's why I enjoy doing live content. So we're kicking off with the news that Mark Gurman dropped, who, I don't know if it's the leak culture or the rumor culture, but as soon as like a leaker picks up some form of credibility, it feels like they're all still very, very quick to report on anything, whether or not it's valid or not. And that tends to end up in them reporting too soon, and then they get our hopes up, and then they have to change the rumors down the road. So Mark Gurman has gotten a lot of things right, but what I have to admit is a lot of the things he's right about are things that go against what he previously said. So for the longest time, we were hearing from Mark Gurman of Bloomberg that, hey, Apple's going to release new M2 versions of the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros, with the M2 Pro and M2 Max chip. He was saying for months that we were going to get an M2 Mac Mini. And because he had gotten other things right, I was like, okay, he was spot on with the Apple event announcement. And then he was saying they would do an October event. And then he was the one that came forward and said, actually, Apple's not going to do an October event for the iPads. They're just going to do a site refresh. He was right about that. But again, it goes against what he said earlier in the year. And for the longest time, he kept saying, oh, the Macs are coming later. The Macs are coming later. Well, now, most recently, Gurman, who is typically right according to his most recent report, right? So if he made a report that is talking about something that's going to happen in the next couple weeks, tends to be pretty accurate. If he's talking about something that's a few months out, tends to be a lot less accurate, which is usually how the leak community works anyway. So basically, the latest report now is, and typically whenever there's a report about something being later or pushed back, that usually ends up being right, more so than the rumors saying, oh, this is coming sooner than we expected, or this was coming earlier. Usually those reports, even if they're from credible sources, are not as accurate. But he's saying no new Macs for the rest of this year, and they've decided to push off the 14-inch, the 16-inch MacBook Pro refresh, which always... I had a hard time believing in my head. I really had a hard time wrapping my brain around the idea that, like, the M1 MacBook Air came out November of 2020, and then the M2 MacBook Air comes out, like, June of 2022. So it's like a year and a half goes by for the MacBook Air, but then these giant, huge refreshed MacBook Pros with the mini LED, the 120 hertz, the redesign, the legacy ports, all of these big changes, and you want to refresh it 12 months later? Yeah, that didn't make too much sense in my view, so I hope I explained that in the video. He doubled down on it, though, several times, even though it ended up not being correct. He came forward, he's like, no, they're still planning on dropping these new MacBook Pros by the end of the year. Now he's changing his tune. Of course, there's a possibility, although there's no way to verify this, there's a possibility that Apple was going to launch new MacBook Pros and then just decided that they were so insanely similar because from what we're hearing about, what we were hearing about these M2 Pro MacBooks or the M2 Max MacBooks was that they were not going to be redesigned. They were going to look identical, basically have the same ports, same keyboard, same colors, same webcam, and just the only difference was going to be the M2 Pro and M2 Max chip, which both of which are still based on the 5nm architecture. These were not 4nm chips or 3nm chips. They were still just going to be basically the M1 Pro chip overclocked. Just, a little bit higher clock speed, which would not be a very noticeable jump in performance. And maybe, again, we'll never know this, but maybe Apple decided based on everyone's reactions to the disappointing M2 MacBook Pro and everyone's reactions to the disappointing iPad 10, they were like, maybe we don't need to attract more attention to like disappointing Mac upgrades, because there was already a lot of people last October all having this kind of unified hatred towards the iPad 10, everyone complaining about it, and a lot of the narrative I saw people pushing in at least my comments in live streams, which I know is not everything. That's not like the entire Apple sphere. But I imagine if I was seeing it, Apple was probably seeing it too. But there were a bunch of people saying 2022 is one of Apple's worst years. Like it's the year of minor upgrades. It's the year of decoy effect. It's the year of like good enough. We don't need to try very hard. Let's just slap a new chip in there and call it a day. A lot of complaining about the iPhone 14 and 14 Plus, which, sorry, I hit the desk. Which, to be fair, was justified. I do think that the 14 Plus, my theory was intentionally bad. And the whole reason that product exists is to make the 14 Pros look better. So maybe they were like, if we update these MacBook Pros now, then we're probably just going to disappoint a bunch of people and everyone's going to say, this is boring. And then the secondhand market for the M1 Pro MacBook, so basically the MacBook Pro I'm using right now, that market would explode because then they would start offering these at a discounted price, certified refurbished or secondhand. They would go down because they're not the new model, but they would be so insanely similar. So Apple decided, let's not rush to launch the new M2 Pro MacBooks. And if that's the decision that they made internally, which again, Gurman could have just been completely wrong and maybe was getting false info or trolls were feeding him incorrect info. We don't know. But if that was true, I would say Apple made the right call. If you had to decide between, should we release these next generation MacBook Pros that are insanely similar and just have 15% faster CPU performance, but they're more prone to thermal throttling, should we release these now? Or should we wait until TSMC is ready to release the 3nm architecture of M2 chips, which would showcase noticeable battery improvements, noticeable performance improvements by that improved architecture? Should we just wait until those are ready? And then maybe by then we could have better ports like HDMI 2.1 or faster SD card slot, or maybe either improve the webcam on the new MacBook Pros or get rid of the webcam entirely because, yes, I'm using continuity camera right now, for those wondering. And continuity camera works so insanely well. And if you could just remove the webcam entirely, and if people are like, hey, what am I supposed to use? Buy an iPhone, right? That's what Tim Cook loves to say. Just buy your mom an iPhone. Even more reason to get people to buy an iPhone. Also, I know they exist, but how many people are genuinely buying Androids and MacBook Pros? I know that it's not like nobody. It's not zero. Some people buy Android phones and MacBooks, but I feel like it's not that much. I feel like it's a pretty small overlap. Typically, the kind of person who's comfortable buying a Mac is probably going to be an iOS user anyway. So, I was just thinking about you. Apple sent me a survey about my Apple Watch Series 8. Really? Please tell me more about it. Hi, Tyler. Hi, Kevin. Visualizer. Welcome, members. Burkhart says, I have a theory that new MacBook Pros were about to drop. Apple lowering the price of the 14-inch, 16-inch on refurbished despite no refresh is extremely odd. They haven't messed with prices in the past unless there's a product refresh. For example, Air 4 refurbished pricing didn't go down until last month, but iPad Pros did. I got the feeling that the drop in the refurbished prices was just because they hit the 1-year mark, but you could be onto something there. If they were comfortable lowering the prices of certified refurbished, then maybe they did have something ready to drop, and then they just decided it was not going to be worth it ultimately. Oh my God, Ben! That was so generous of you. Why did you do that? Gifted 5 Tailosive Tech memberships. So that was very generous of you. You didn't have to do that. But I guess I'll see you guys in the members-only streams. Skylar got one, Dovanus got one, Alex H, and $1 Snake. I think those guys have had gifted memberships in the past as well. You're back in the club. Congrats. But the funny thing about that, I'm sorry if this is cringy. There's the notification. I'm sorry if this is cringy, but because there's so many pluses these days, there's the Disney Plus and there's iCloud Plus and Apple TV Plus. Oh boy. In case you didn't notice in the animations that are popping up, I have rebranded the membership to the channel. In case you're wondering, it's $2 a month to get behind the scenes updates and behind the scenes filming and editing live streams where I use continuity camera and center stage. Hey, Mike got it too. Why Mike was gifted? That's awesome. Now Mike can be in the member streams. I've rebranded it to Tailosive Tech Plus. So because of all of the plus terminologies and the fact that, you know, with the animations on the channel, I try to make it all Apple themed with like the AirPower sound and the charging animation and the Apple Pay badges next to your name and stuff. So I just thought Tailosive Tech Plus kind of went along the lines of trying to make the Tailosive Tech viewership experience feel as Apple as possible. So the people that are crazy enough, who I don't recommend you do this, but the people who are crazy enough to pay for the next tier, which is the moderator tier, if you're a good mod, by the way, don't abuse your power, but for $20 a month, you get Tailosive Tech Pro. So I'm working on the the tiers working across the Tailosive Tech membership page. So you guys get Tailosive Tech Plus for $2 a month, Tailosive Tech Pro for $20 a month. That's all I got right now. I'll let you know if I think of something for Tailosive Tech Max. Is this live for members only? No, this live stream is public, which means everybody can watch it. But whenever I have the ability to do live streams for behind the scenes of me filming and editing videos, those are just for members. And we have a lot of fun because they're not as busy. You know, I like the big live streams when there's lots of people. That's fun and exciting too. But there's something special about like smaller live streams with just 5 to 10 people, and you kind of know them on a more first name basis. It feels like you can carry a conversation. Whereas this is kind of like a large number of people all asking questions at the same time. And yeah, I have no idea what I would do for Tailosive Tech Ultra. I've got no perk thoughts in my head. So don't do Tailosive Tech Pro. It's not worth it. You shouldn't do it. I just walked in and heard you talking about how you're going to charge subscription fees immediately. No. Tailosive Tech will still be free. I just want to offer a little bit extra for those who are willing to pitch in to support the channel each month. So I come up with behind the scenes and little exclusive perks for the people that do that. Let's see. I've just joined that I fear because of the state of Apple currently, the prices of all the current Macs will increase. It's happened with every single lineup but AirPods so far. Apple TV got cheaper, for the record. Apple TV is amazing. A lot of people are getting those, which I'm happy to see. They made it run cooler. Like the Apple TV is literally cooler than it was before. Hey, Raymond, thank you for support. Only complaint about current Macs is no Ethernet. Oh, you mean the MacBooks. I was going to say the Mac Mini, the Mac Studio, even the iMac you can technically get Ethernet with. But yeah, I don't know why, like, if Apple's comfortable putting the Ethernet port in the power brick for the iMac, why don't they put the Ethernet port in the power brick for the MacBooks? You already came up with a way to do that where you can deliver power and data through the same cable, but they're not doing it. Complete missed opportunity. Hey, Apple, you still got time, right? Because you scrapped the M2 Pro MacBooks that were allegedly going to drop and then discontinued, internally canceled or whatever. I don't know if it's true or not, but Michael Burkhart has a good theory about the refurbished prices going down. But yeah, they should put that on the MacBook Pro charge bricks, I feel like. But yeah, the Apple TV is literally cooler than the last generation, and it's cheaper. And they switched the Siri remote to Type-C. So many great upgrades all at once. The only thing left I want is an Apple TV stick, so you don't have to have a box anywhere. But yeah, okay. So if we ignore AirPods, prices haven't gone up. If we ignore Apple TV, prices haven't gone up. If we ignore the iPhone 14 Plus, that's the only iPhone that's more expensive, but that's kind of in a new category anyway. 14 Pros were the same price, at least in the US. iPhone 14 was the same price, but that's probably because it's basically the same phone. So yeah, I mean, it's not impossible that the Mac prices would go up, but I feel like the prices for the M2 MacBook Air went up because it was a redesign, and I don't think the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros are rumored to be redesigned this soon. They're rumored to get chip improvements, but that's it. I don't think they'd look different. In fact, they'll probably share quite a bit when people do teardowns and stuff. I still think it would be a great idea to just ditch the webcam. Just get rid of the notch entirely on the MacBook Pros and just go, like, that's, at least if I could decide, that's what I would do at this point, because I'm using continuity camera for everything, and it's so much better than the onboard webcam. I just don't even want to try with the webcam anymore. So I'm like, maybe Apple's monitoring the usage of continuity camera now that Ventura is out. Like, how many people are actually going to use this feature versus using the onboard webcam? And maybe they'll compare the percentages and see, like, well, if a lot of people use continuity camera, then maybe we can just ditch the webcam entirely. But if it was up to me, I would ditch it, genuinely. I'd be like, if you're really that worried about it, if you're worried about, like, well, people want to use the camera out of the box, then okay, how about here's a healthy compromise. You can include, if you make the 14-inch and 16-inch MacBook Pros that don't come with webcams anymore, no notch, it's just the one size bezel all the way around. That would look so clean. Then you include the Belkin adapter, right? The MagSafe thing that snaps onto the back of the iPhone. So you're like assuming that the buyer already has an iPhone. Maybe some people wouldn't like that because they're like, what if they don't have an iPhone? Or it's like, okay, that demographic exists, but I don't think it's that common. So I would suggest, like, that would be cheaper, right, than including all of this excess wiring and having to manufacture the camera right there and everything. Obviously, there's still microphones, because the microphones on this MacBook are amazing. That's the mics I'm using right now. You're listening to me through the MacBook Pro mic, and the camera you get on your iPhone is just so much insanely better. I would rather them just include a Belkin adapter so that, like, you got the accessory already. You can easily attach it to the MacBook and use it as a camera. The notch is Apple's signature feature. They just got rid of it. Now it's Dynamic Island. It's not that signature. Come on. I mean, the M2 MacBook Pro that dropped didn't have a notch. They're still selling the M1 MacBook Air, which doesn't have a notch. Studio Display doesn't have a notch. Riley, no! What have you done? Riley McGinnis. Oh my God. I thought I rebranded the names. He signed up for Tailosive Tech Pro. The absolute mad lad. He actually did it. That means I gotta add him. But don't misuse this, Riley. Oh my God. Looks pretty sharp on a 4K panel. Yeah, I'm not streaming at 4K, but that doesn't matter. It's okay. Apple's holiday shopping dropped today, so if you buy the new Apple TV or anything else, you have until January to return it, so you have pretty long to try it out. I have an Apple TV already, and it's fine. I don't need to try it out. The A15 chip isn't going to change anything. If I wanted a webcam on my laptop, I'd prefer a good webcam or just buy an external one. The best webcam is the one you have with you, right? The iPhone. That is your best Mac webcam. I think it looks great. And if they would just include the Belkin adapter with every MacBook, that's your webcam. But the only reason maybe that's not a great idea is there's probably a ton of people on Mac that just hardly use the webcam. There's a lot of people that don't do that many online meetings or Zoom calls and stuff. So for that reason, it's probably like, no big deal. That's weird. It still says Tailosive Tech Plus. I need to work on that animation. Let's see. I wouldn't use continuity camera. iPhone battery drops much too fast. Mine's been okay. I've actually used it today a bunch because we recorded the Tech and EV podcasts, which took about 3.5 hours this morning. And by the end of it, it was at like 60% for like 3.5 hours of use. I mean, you can plug it in. You don't have to do that wirelessly. Right now, I've been live for 20 minutes and it's sitting at 47%. I love that you can check the iPhone battery percentage from the Mac, by the way. That's such a cool feature. Just plug it in my opinion. That's how it works. Let's see. Shouldn't be talk about a redesign for any of the MacBooks for the next 5 years. That's Apple's pattern. Probably. I don't know if you'd count ditching the notch as a redesign, more of a design tweak, but Hasael, thank you for the super chat. That was very nice of you. He says, left Apple Music for YouTube Music to have one app for videos, music, and podcasts. You should do a review on using YouTube as the ultimate media service. I think that's an interesting concept. I thought I did videos like that in the past. I've tried YouTube Music, and I don't love the UI, but I'm not leaving YouTube Premium. I'm sorry. I use YouTube for way too much stuff. So there's no way I can let go of that. And I'm renting out slots on the family plan, so it barely costs me anything basically to have YouTube Premium. So Apple Music was costing me roughly $8 a month when I had it, after, I paid for it annually and I had the cash back on the card and stuff. So I would have to pay like $8 a month just to have a nicer UI for my music app. And the truth is, like I talked about in my AirPods video, there's not a lot of times in the day I get to listen to music. Um, if I am listening to music, it's in the car, in which case it's just Bluetooth. It's just, I don't spend much time in my music apps. I just kind of open them and select the playlist or select the station I want, and then I turn the phone off. So to me, the fact that I was only in the music app for a few seconds meant that, okay, YouTube Music, Apple Music, Spotify, they all practically accomplish the same task. I still personally feel like I tried Apple Music again when they had a little free promotion going on. I think that was earlier this year. I did a video trying it out again, comparing it to Spotify. And it was like, yes, I do think the user interface is the best. I think it looks a lot cleaner. I think it looks a lot better than Spotify or YouTube Music, but I'm not paying $8 a month just for a slightly cleaner UI. Ultimately, I open the app, I play the song, I close the app. That's it. It's not something that gets a lot of my time, so it's not worth the extra $8 a month. Plus, I also felt that Spotify Premium was had a way better algorithm, like at recommending music that I like. I found so many artists that I didn't know I would love on Spotify, and the Apple Music algorithm never really found that many tunes that I could get into. And I didn't know what people meant before when they were like, Spotify is the best algorithm. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, who cares? And then once I switched to Spotify, I was like, okay, I understand what people mean. Thank you, Vabby, as well, for becoming a Tailosive Tech Plus subscriber. Thanks for signing up. Appreciate that. Yeah, YouTube Premium is a lifesaver, but Hasael brings up a good point that while YouTube Premium is expensive, I do agree. The individual plan I think is $12 a month, and the family plan is going up. Even though I was on grandfathered pricing, um, it's like for 6 people, $23 a month. So everybody on my family plan chips in and helps pay for that. So it's still cheaper to be on the family plan and have everyone pay for it individually on that, and just divvy up the money. It's still cheaper to do that than it is individual. But yeah, it's a very expensive service. But when you think about YouTube Music, basically allows you to look up all the same songs that you can find on Apple Music and Spotify. UI, I don't think is as good. Algorithm, probably not as good. But for that one membership, you get ad-free YouTube viewing. You get, which is a huge selling point these days because of how many freaking ads are on YouTube. It's annoying. So you get the ad-free viewership, you get YouTube downloads, and you get of course, you can follow countless podcast channels because a lot of people post their podcasts on YouTube. Plus, uh, I think background play is free now, or picture in picture is free now, or something like that. But yeah, it's an expensive membership, but it's one I won't budge on. I dropped out of iCloud Plus. I dropped out of Apple Music. I dropped out of, um, I've never paid for TV Plus, although I currently have it for free through my Apple card. There's not many memberships that I think are worth it these days. YouTube Premium is one of the very few that I'm comfortable with. Michael says it's hard to argue about the value proposition if you're on YouTube Premium because YouTube Music is basically a free add-on, wide catalog because live shows on video are available via audio. That's true. Definitely not the best music app, but if you're going to be paying for YouTube Premium anyways, it's good enough. Exactly. That's my Michael Corcoran basically summarized my thoughts of like, no, it's not the best music app, but if you're going to get premium anyway, that it covers the basics. So something that I spend a lot of time on is something I'm usually comfortable subscribing to. And YouTube, I watch more than anything. I watch YouTube on my TV. I watch YouTube while I work. I watch YouTube in my car. Like, seriously, there's so much great channels, so many great resources and educational places. Thank you, Michael Burkhart, for your support as well. Personally, I've had Tailosive Tech Plus for 9 months. Yawn. That's impressive. Someone here, who is it? Alvin Brock says, I like premium. He's got the highest badge, I think. They're now letting us do YouTube badges for up to 48 months. And I don't think anybody's at 48 months yet for this channel, but hopefully it keeps going up. Alpha says YouTube's new interface sucks. Pinch to zoom is broken. Oh yeah, Bobby says thoughts on the new UI for YouTube. It's pretty good. I don't hate it. I mean, it seems a little bit more modern. I like. It almost feels more Apple-esque. Is that weird to say? Like all of the thumbnails being more curved, and all of the like comment section, and the description and the like button and everything is in these little bubbles, and those bubbles expand when you tap on them. It feels like they took some iOS design cues, so I like it. But what annoys me is there's like a billion other things that are wrong with YouTube, and this is where their attention is going. I'm like, can you fix the bots, YouTube? I still had to ban like a dozen bots yesterday from my comment section that are commenting on every comment saying, "You want a prize? Click here or text me this number." I will never do giveaways. There are no giveaways, okay? I'm not doing giveaways on this channel. Don't believe anyone in the comments that looks like me who claims you want a giveaway. Don't. I will never ask you to text me on Telegram, on WhatsApp. Don't believe those, please. But they're still there after like several years of this being a problem. YouTube hasn't fixed it. The copyright system is royally broken. False copyright claims. People can issue strikes unrightfully. People get, Randy especially this week has had to deal with YouTube copyright claiming his content for music that he wrote, that he has proof that he wrote on YouTube. He live streamed himself making the music, and they still think it belongs to someone else, and the song that they claim he sounds like is nothing like his. It's extremely broken. There's so many problems YouTube has that I wish they would fix. They still haven't brought community posts to iPad yet. Like what? Why the heck has that taken years? It's literally been like 4 years, and it still, when you go to the community tab on iPad, it says, "Sorry, community posts are on the way." Like we don't have that yet. It's like, guys, this is not that hard. Like I can access it and it works fine when I go on Safari, but every time I go on Safari on the iPad, it just says, "Oh, you should be using the app." Ugh. Google did say they were going to shift all their iOS apps to the UIKit framework at some point. Maybe that's what it is. But you said I won something. I have done giveaways in the past, but I'm telling you now, I will not do them again. Who's the artist they claimed Randy's music belongs to? I don't even know. Go follow his. He's been tweeting about it for a while, but he's very frustrated, rightfully so, because YouTube has not been very helpful about it. But yeah, just because you're using UIKit doesn't mean it'll look like Apple design. But all I'm saying is it looks very Apple-esque. I like all the rounded corners on the thumbnails and stuff. And when you post pictures, they have the rounded corners. And it's nice, but it's not what I think they should prioritize right now. It's not YouTube's biggest problem. How well has your 2018 iPad Pro held up? I'm considering getting a refurbished one since the current lineup doesn't appeal to me. Good question, Gavin, and that is the right question. The 2018 iPad Pro is fine. I can't tell what the battery health is because I don't feel like downloading the Coconut battery app or whatever and plugging it into my Mac. But it's the original thing it was intended for. It still does. You know, that I absolutely think the 2018 iPad Pro refurbished is worth it over any of the more recent generation iPads. I don't think the Air 5 or Air 4 is worth it. I definitely don't think the iPad Pros are worth it. It feels like everything has been trying to live up to the insane hype that was the 2018 iPad Pro, but nothing has caught up. The software can't justify itself. The hardware that's been improved since then can't be utilized. So yes, I would absolutely recommend a 2018 refurbished, because if you buy refurbished through Apple, it's basically new. They replace a bunch of the parts, and you'll barely be able to tell it was ever used. Alpha, thank you for being a member for 16 months, or a member of Tailosive Tech Plus. What if Apple, or even better, Elon bought YouTube? Ooh, man, that'd be interesting. I don't think they could, because YouTube is not its own company. It's owned by Google, so you'd have to buy out Google, which is not possible. Elon could barely swing buying Twitter with all of the loans and all of the stock he had to liquidate and stuff. So yeah, it's wouldn't be possible. But assuming it was, I would hope Elon would do something about the bots and address the copyright issues and that kind of thing, I suppose. Simply Sora has also been a member for 5 months. Thank you very much. Do you think a 12.9-inch mini LED M1 iPad Pro is worth it for people at a discounted price? Well, that's not very specific, Alex. How discounted we're talking? If you could get it for like $500, sure. But if you're talking like $900 instead of $1,100, I'm still gonna recommend a refurbished 2018. I just think the difference between the two are so insanely small, and the price is quite large. Like you can save $300, $400, and what do you miss out on? No center stage camera. Like 900? Nah, I don't think like mini LED is kind of nice in my opinion, but it's not a deal breaker to not have it. Like when I got the mini LED iPad Pro, in side by sides I could kind of tell the difference in contrast ratio, but if you're not doing the side by sides, I don't find it very noticeable. Like I'm not actively picking it up when I use my MacBook Pro. Even for mini LED, it's not quite OLED, and it's better than LCD, but it's not the same richness you get from an OLED panel. So maybe if you're like using it for intensive color correcting, you can justify that. But the little black bars when you're watching content, you can still see the pixels are a little bit on with mini LED. It's not completely black. Tombo, thank you for signing up for Tailosive Tech Plus. That was nice of you. Elon would run YouTube into the ground in 24 hours just like he's currently doing to Twitter. I don't think they're in the ground. He said ad revenue is down, but I think that they're trying to pivot more towards monthly membership revenue anyway. And I think there's a lot of uncertainty with Twitter because they just were taken private and they're under new ownership and they're losing a lot of employees. So that, of course, is going to make advertisers a little nervous. But no, Elon didn't run Tesla into the ground. In fact, he ran them to the moon and back with how well they performed. But I think Elon's an engineer, and just like his approach to rocketry or electric vehicles, he's throwing a lot of things at the wall right now, and he's going to see what sticks. He's just going to see what works and what doesn't, and if something doesn't work, then he'll change course and do something else. $1 Snake said, does mini LED have better colors as well? It does, but again, it's not like so bad that LCD is not. It's not like a must-have feature in my opinion, unless you use the mini LED panel for work or something. But in that case, I think your question's kind of loaded, Alex. If you're like, but I need mini LED, it's like, okay, well then, what are you asking? Should I buy it at a discount? Yeah, I guess. Sure, go ahead. Should I buy it at a discount or at full price? What do you think is the right decision? But if you're asking, is mini LED worth spending $900 on versus buying a $400 or $500 non-mini LED iPad Pro from a couple years ago? Yeah, they're so insanely similar. Save yourself the $300, $400 because ultimately it's an iPad, and you're probably going to end up like a lot of people who buy the iPad, use it for a little while, and then you forget about it, and you end up using your phone most of the time anyway. And then the iPad sits on the desk or at the nightstand, or you only use it for FaceTime occasionally. And if you're mainly just using it for FaceTime, do you really need that mini LED if the video feed you're watching is going to be compressed by the other person's internet regardless? No, it's personal preference. Some people think mini LED is so good, so noticeable that you absolutely have to have it. Okay, but then there's no debate to be had. You already know what you want. There's nothing to talk about. Gavin says, definitely going to get that 2018 Pro, especially since it'll be my first tablet, plus 120 hertz is amazing on my 13 Pro Max, and I can't go back to 60. Yes, there you go. See, that's my only issue with the iPad Mini 6. If my 2018 iPad Pro broke, and I needed to get a different iPad, for one, I would consider the only reason, in case you're wondering, like I've been tweeting, Eric Gonzalez says, hello. Hey, Eric. Thanks for coming. People have been asking, like, Drew, he tweeted from his iPad, or oh, he's using his iPad again. Like, oh my gosh, he's using it. The only reason I have been using my iPad Pro more lately is not because I really love it all that much or because I think iPadOS is great. It's because of continuity camera, because of this right here. When I'm doing my behind-the-scenes streams for everyone on Tailosive Tech Plus, I'm using continuity camera because it has center stage. So when I'm setting up equipment, it tracks me around, and I'm using this as my webcam while I'm editing because it's a much better webcam. And during that process, I used to do all my video thumbnails off of my phone, but my phone is my camera. It's become too useful. My iPhone has so many use cases that if I needed to replace my iPad, or I lost this or broke it or something, or someone stole it somehow, um, my first question would be, could I just get a second iPhone? And maybe I would just get a cheap iPhone 13 and a 13 mini, or an iPhone 12 mini probably could even work, and use that as my webcam. And then I'll go back to doing all my thumbnails on my 13 Pro Max. But depending on how much I could get a 12 mini for, I would be cross-shopping it with a 2018 11-inch iPad Pro, because you can find those on Amazon renewed, which if it comes and you don't like it because it's damaged or scratches or something on it, most of the time Amazon renewed is pretty honest. If there's something wrong, they'll say it. But there's a 90-day return period. So you could literally use that iPad for 3 months and then decide, you know what? I don't like that it had a scratch on the back, so I'm going to return it and get all your money back. So Michael says refurbished 12 mini is $429 when they're in stock. On Amazon renewed, you can get the 2018 11-inch iPad Pro for about that same price, about $430 I've seen them. So it's nearly the same price, and I would be debating, should my 13 Pro Max be my dedicated camera, because that does have a better camera than the 13 mini or the 12 mini, or should I just buy another iPad as my thumbnail design device? Plus, I can use the Apple Pencil on the iPad. I can't use it on the phone. So there's advantages. The screen is bigger, so that makes it a little easier to do thumbnails on. So I feel like I feel like I would probably buy a 2018 Pro again at this point, just for cheap. I have a 2020 iPad and use it for minor photo editing. Otherwise, I use my MacBook. I also use it as a sidecar, but majority use it on my phone. Use. Oh, but majority use is on my phone. Yes, I see what you're saying, Nate. Yeah, I feel like that's how most people use the iPad. Most people are not buying the mini LED one. Absolutely not how most people use the iPad. If you've ever seen a musician perform live, you'll notice they almost always use an iPad for their set lists or for chords or lyrics. I have not noticed that personally, but my point is, if you're using your iPad to look at notes or set lists, you don't need mini LED. You just need a big screen that you can touch. In which case, a 2018 iPad Pro is still going to get the job done. Is a musician performing live going to care if they have center stage or not? Or are they just using it as their clipboard, essentially? He doesn't go to gigs without it. I know, but tell me an iPad use case where you think the mini LED would pay off, because that's what sparked this discussion. Why would anyone care that there's a scratch on the back? Most of us accept use cases anyway. Well, iPad, I do use a smart folio cover for the case because the iPad doesn't have a good way to prop itself up on its own. But yeah, I don't think anyone would care, but some people get angry if they just bought something and out of the box it's damaged or something. Some people don't like that. How often do you watch movie series? Movie series? Occasionally. Probably not more than the average person. Like a decent amount. iPad mini and iPhone Pro Max. Why? The sizes are so similar. The iPad is nearly redundant. Yeah, I would just be picking whichever one I thought fit the secondary use case of an iOS device in general. No, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not against the concept of people buying iPads. I'm just saying you should get the cheapest one you can that fits the use case of that iPad. And I feel like the vast majority of use cases do not need Thunderbolt, do not need M1, do not need center stage, do not need mini LED, do not need 2 terabytes of storage. For what most people use iPads for, iPad mini 6, refurbished iPad Pro from 2018, those are basically your best bets. Those are the best options to go with. That's what I would recommend the vast majority of people buy. Yeah, if you're using it for photo shoots and you're doing all kinds of color correction at your job, okay, that's when I will cave and say, sure, maybe the mini LED is worth it if you're using it for Photoshop regularly. But I don't think that's most people. The vast majority of iPad users are using it like Skylar was describing, as like you're using it for sheets, you're using it as a FaceTime machine, or I use mine for making video thumbnails. And I tried the M1 iPad Pro. For the record, I did review that. I've used an iPad with mini LED. I did not feel like it enabled me to do a bunch more with through my job or with my video thumbnails. Keep in mind the vast majority of content is viewed in standard dynamic range, not extreme dynamic range. So sometimes it can cause problems when you watch content or make content on an HDR display and you shoot it in HDR and you can see it and then you post it online, but other people aren't looking at it on HDR displays. Therefore, it just looks washed out and worse. Um, for watching YouTube is what Kevin says. Yeah. If you use your iPad for watching YouTube, I don't think mini LED is that crucial. Vast majority of YouTube content is in standard dynamic range. Um, my reasoning for one is a bigger slash better mobile viewing experience. Yeah, you can get that with this, which you don't need to pay $900 for. Mini LED is much better than LCD. I wouldn't say it depends on what you're doing. If you watch a lot of HDR content or work a lot with HDR content, I would say it's much better. But ask yourself, like, how much HDR content are you watching? Because most of us aren't watching that much HDR content. And it's not as good as OLED. It's like a middle step. It's like a little bit worse than OLED, but better than LCD. So to me, LCD still works fine. Um, iPads do have niche users like airplane pilots, doctors, musicians. Yeah. And they should all be spending about $400 to $500 on the iPad. They don't need to spend $900 to $1,000. It's almost like I'm trying to think of a good comparison. Uh, Man, like headphones maybe. Like should you drop $1,000 on over-ear headphones? It's like, well, there are $1,000 over-ear headphones that are good, but most people probably don't need headphones of that caliber. You'd probably be fine with $300 to $400 headphones is good enough. Whoa! Oh my gosh, Chris Norton, awfully generous of you. Says, what are we talking about? At the moment, we started off with talking about how there's not going to be any new Macs for the rest of this year, which is a bit of a bummer. But now we're talking about how iPads have their use cases, they have purpose. I just don't think anybody should be dropping more than about $500 or $600 on iPads, because everything after $600 is just like unnecessarily overkill hardware for a device that can't do much with it anyway. Um, let's see. I'm saving for the next XDR to add to my current Pro XDR. Dual XDR screens. I'm glad no new Mac for the year, but I would like to see the next Mac Pro and XDR display. I'm sure they're working on that. I'm very interested in it as well. I'm kind of surprised to say I did not keep any Apple products in 2022. Nothing came out that really grabbed that much of my attention. So probably the next big thing I could see myself buying from Apple would be a XDR display that's, on par with the specs of my MacBook Pro. But that's contingent on what they price it at, because I don't want to spend $6,000 on a monitor. So maybe if they target a lower price bracket because it's rumored to be a smaller display, then I could get on board with it. But we'll see. We've got a ways to go until then. Probably unveil it either in the spring or at Dub Dub next year, which means we've got some time until that's ready. Um, let's see. I heard mini LED isn't as good as 13 Pro Max OLED, and for the most part, that's about 50% better in colors than iPad LCD. But only thing it destroys is HDR and contrast. Yeah, OLED is still better, but it's more prone to burn in. Mini LED doesn't burn in as easily, which is why they use it on iPads and Macs, because the displays are typically on for longer periods. But yeah, like I think you'll notice mini LED in a side by side, but that's about it for average uses. If you just use a LCD iPad Pro out the box, it's fine. Um, but what I forgot to mention earlier on the subject of no new Macs for this year is I'm not that disappointed that, oh, thank you, Chris, again for the super chat. I like my iPad Mini 76. Whoa, Chris is out here living in the future somehow. But I'm glad you like it. Mike enjoys his iPad Mini 6 as well. That's pretty much the only new iPad I think people should buy. Like, that's a good buy. But you can also buy it on Amazon for $3.99, which is much cheaper. Only Apple product I almost bought this year was an iPod Touch 7. Why? Oh my God, please don't buy iPods in 2022. Um, oh, Demetha Fernando, thank you for the super chat. Hi, Drew. What's your opinion on early November deals advertised as Black Friday prices? They want to sell. They want to move inventory. I mean, I never understood the concept of Black Friday anyway because there's sales and discounts all year. The whole point of Black Friday and Cyber Monday is just to make you think that there's a bunch of good deals going around. The truth is, there's good deals going around all the time. And in my experience, I've been doing YouTube and monitoring tech releases and monitoring sales throughout the year. In like 5 years of being a full time YouTuber, I have not noticed substantially better prices at Black Friday or Cyber Monday. It's always sales that you could have gotten a month ago or the month before. Like, I don't, I don't really. I think they try to make it a big deal by turning it into an event, when in reality the deals are not that good. They're pretty much on par with what you can get throughout the year. If you want to get a good deal on something, follow accounts like 9 to 5 Toys. They'll typically tweet out good deals they find or sales they find. And they do that constantly. It's not like that you wait for Black Friday. Typically, the best deals you find are not on big event sales like Cyber Monday or Thanksgiving Day sale or Christmas holiday sale. Those are usually not where you get the best deals. It's usually like on a random Thursday, Amazon starts selling a iPad Mini 6 for $400, and it's like, hey, okay, that's cool. Let's pick up that while it's cheap. Sorry, Dovanus. What I was going to say I forgot was I understand Apple postponing the new MacBook Pros because those don't have that many changes and 3 nanometers around the corner. But what I would have liked to see updated is the Mac Mini. I'm really bummed that they never released the M2 Mac Mini. People were saying they were going to. I'm sorry because I probably contributed to that as well, saying that there's a good chance of the M2 Mac Mini coming out later this year. And they didn't. It's still rocking M1. So it's like there's like no love for the desktops, right? Like the iMac didn't get refreshed, but that's okay, right? Because it should be killed off. But the Mac Mini didn't get anything, even though the M2 MacBook Air got the big redesign. M2 MacBook Pro didn't get redesigned, but at least got the new chip. Why couldn't they have just thrown a new chip in the Mac Mini? How hard would that have been? FWIW. The Pro XDR is my best tech purchase in a while. Love it. Enjoy it daily. That's good. I would not get too much use out of mine because I often work out of my car when I'm filming in there and stuff. So that's why I'm not willing to drop $6,000 on an external monitor, just because it would be nice, but not that nice. I can still work and get the job done on a small display. I've gotten pretty comfortable with it. Plus, I'm still using my iMac Pro. I put the chat on there a lot of the time when I'm streaming, or I put videos on there that I'm watching while I'm working. So I'm getting by without it. It's not that crucial, but I still think it would be fun to finally get a Pro Motion display from Apple that's big. Do you think it's worth buying the keyboard for iPad 10th gen? I don't think the iPad. No one should buy the iPad 10th gen. I don't care what your use case is, what your market is. No one should buy that. I'm sorry. So no, I guess is the answer, Vabi. Sorry if you already bought the iPad 10, but if you already bought it, then why you don't care about my opinion, right? Because I've already made a video about why I don't think anyone should buy it. So definitely don't buy the keyboard for it. Why should the iMac be killed off? Because it has white bezels and it's ugly. It's disgusting. I'm sorry. I can't, no matter how many angles I look at that iMac, I can't get past the chin. Unnecessarily large chin and white bezels are disgusting. It has no right to exist. Katrina says, I'm happy with my Air 4. Don't see any reason to upgrade. I feel like that's most people on their iPads these days. They're like, nothing has come out that's that interesting or worth it to me. James Joseph Finn says, I don't want to think. Tell me what iPhone and MacBook to buy. I'm a web dev and content creator. A team member, not me, does all the video stuff, post-production, etc. Thanks, Brogan. I don't want to think. Tell me what iPhone and MacBook to buy. Okay. I guess don't ask that then, I suppose. The paint on my iPad is wearing off after 2 years and a couple of months of use. Really? My iPad Pro is now over 4 years old, and I guess it's silver, so there's not much paint to talk about anyway, but I really don't recommend you buy iPads that come in various colors because, for one, the paint probably rubs off, and for two, you're probably going to put it in a cover like this anyway, and then you won't see the color of it for 99% of its life. Um, it gets a little oil and fingerprints on it, as you can tell. Just smudges. It just needs to be cleaned. It's just old dead skin and crap on it, but the paint is fine. It still works. To for what it's good at, it does. But I still think the A12X chip has not been fully unlocked. There's so many more things this iPad could do if they let it. I do want to try DaVinci Resolve when that comes out. Has that launched yet? I remember hearing about it, but I thought it would have shown up in the news or something. I gotta check real quick. DaVinci. No. Getting all these random games. Expensive games. That's not Resolve. But yeah, I would like to try a more intensive video editing application on this thing when possible. Would have been nice if it was Final Cut, but Apple can't be bothered, right? M2 iMac refresh would also be cool. Oh, I don't get why Apple can't just drop their new chips in Mac refreshes as press releases similar to the Intel days, especially in the case of the Mac Mini where the M2 chip was already unveiled. I know, right? It would have taken like no time. I guess Apple's thought process is the M2 chip is so boring and so unchanged that there's no reason to put it in the Mac Mini until maybe they're waiting for a better chip to come along. But it just feels weird, that the Air and the Pro got the M2, but not the Mini. Um, let's see. The white bezels are so distracting. I wouldn't even consider buying it just for that reason. I know, me too. If it was just black bezel, all the same size, all the way around, I would love it. That would be a great iMac. I think it would be a great buy. But or at least an option, right? Like at least have an option for black bezels. If you're gonna have all these colors, you're trying to showcase that there's options available. It's launching in Q4, but for the M series iPads only. That's dumb. I thought it was gonna be available to older iPads. I guess they could have just meant the M1 iPad, but if they don't let me try it, then I'm not buying a new iPad just to test it. I've never seen Drew as upset as he was on the iMac reveal. That was one of the most jaw-dropping, disgusting moments I've ever had. Mine is space gray, so explains why it's the case doesn't really bother me. Just as interesting. Okay, that's fair. The space gray doesn't age as gracefully, I guess. That's why I wish I would have bought the silver MacBook Pro, but I messed up because I was in a huge rush to order it as quickly as possible, and I didn't think to that you have to select the color before you start configuring it, which is weird. I don't know why you can't just select the color in the configurator, but I just ran in there and specced out the M1 Max and the 8 terabytes and hit buy as quickly as I could. And I could have reordered it, but I wouldn't have gotten as much cash back because of the cashback glitch. So it was going to cost me like $150 to switch it to silver. And I was like, do I want silver that bad? Nah, not really. Yeah, the chin is ridiculous. Did you watch any shows on Apple TV Plus? I loved Severance. There's some issues I had with the show, but I still thought it was really well executed and the concept was fascinating and I liked the music and I liked the ethical, moral debates they have in that show. Really enjoyed that. Very much looking forward to season 2. And it sucks because it's season 2 is probably going to come out when I don't have Apple TV Plus anymore. I'm not willing to pay $7 a month for it, but when they offer free promos for Apple Card users, I will take advantage of it. So that's what I'm doing right now. We watched Trying on TV Plus, which we liked. We watched the first 2 seasons. I think there's a 3rd season. We watched the first 2 seasons of Servant. Don't really care for it. I kept waiting it to go somewhere, and it never went anywhere. Not a fan of Servant. We watched the Bill Murray movie On the Rocks. I didn't care for that one either. It was trying to be clever, but it wasn't very clever. What else did we watch? The Mariah Carey Christmas special. Stop. I love that Mariah Carey has become a meme. It's beautiful. Let's see. I love your videos. Just want to say that I'm going to collect iPad first gen and iPhone first gen. Wow, good luck with that, Mike's anime review. I have the first gen iPad and the first gen iPhone. They're cool. They're fun to play with. It's amazing they still work. I'm still rocking the 2020 M1 MacBook Pro. Still works really well, so the improvements need to be substantial for me to want to upgrade. Yeah, I mean, it's not much has changed since then. I don't think you're supposed to buy new Macs every year, you know? I think Apple knows that. Most of their users are probably buying a Mac and holding on to it for 4 to 5 years, maybe more on average, 4 to 5 years. I definitely know many people in my personal life that hold on to Macs for like 8 or 9 years, you know, they replace the battery or swap the hard drive with an SSD and it runs a lot faster. And I envy them. I want to be able to make good use out of my Mac purchases for the long haul. So I would love it if my 16-inch MacBook Pro could last me 7, 8 years, and then see what kind of chips and how fast the performance is by, when would that be? 2026, 2027? Out there, what are MacBooks going to be like? I think it's a good way to make good use out of your investments. Let's see. Should I buy the MacBook Pro 14-inch now that it's $400 off, or wait till 2023 and pay full price? I'm going to assume, Alex, you mean buy the new one and pay full price. But I guess it depends on your current Mac situation. There's never a objective wait or don't wait. It just depends on if you do you really need a Mac right now? Are you in school or for work? You need a faster Mac or a laptop that can get you by. If you can't afford to wait that long, then yeah, find a good sale. Find it on discounted, certified refurbished, or buy it through Best Buy or Amazon. They have them on sale a lot of the time. You can get a 14-inch MacBook Pro for like $1,500 now, which is amazing considering the M1 Pro chip is like insanely fast. I don't think you'll go wrong with that. So sure, if you need a definitive answer, I would say yeah, buy the cheaper one. Don't pay full price because the next generation MacBook Pro, we might be waiting a while. It might not be till dub. You might have to wait till June, which could be a while. Let's see. Even iPhones don't need to be upgraded every year, but we are nerds. No, I agree. I'm using last year's model, not this year's model. And I'm sure a lot of people in the chat are not using the iPhone 14. Are we supposed to upgrade iPads every year? No. You're supposed to stop buying iPads until Apple fixes iPadOS. But if you are buying a new to you iPad, I would recommend a 2018 refurbished or an iPad Mini 6. Basically, those are the only two. I don't think the iPad Airs are worth it. They're just scaled down worse versions of the iPad Pro, which is not that much to buy secondhand. Mike says he blames me for all of his Apple purchases. That's fair. I take credit for that. The rumors are all bogus these days, and Mark Gurman doesn't know anything anymore. People should just buy up. I wouldn't say he doesn't know anything. He knew exactly when the Apple event was going to be. He knew that there was site refreshes in October. He said when the site refreshes were going to be, and he was right. He changes his mind a lot, though. I'll agree with that. He will report on something, and then time passes, and he goes, actually, they changed their mind. So I think he is prematurely reporting, and that's probably a side effect, because Ross Young was very accurate a while back when he was like, MacBook Pros are going to have 120 hertz with mini LED, and no one saw that coming, and he was right. After that, once a lot of people started following him, he started becoming more quick to announce things like, oh, Apple's going to release a mini LED iMac in the spring of this year, and then he was like, actually, no, that's been pushed back, and oh, I thought they were going to do a 5K external monitor, but it turned out 5K iMac refresh, but it turned out to be a studio display. And he gets everyone, when they get a bunch of attention, seems to be quicker to drop news reports before they're official. Obviously, they're not really official until Apple drops them, but it feels like the sources were more accurate when they didn't have much of a following. So, yeah, I think that a lot of the time You should probably be more skeptical of reports that are way far out. If they're talking about something that's going to happen 3 months from now or 4 months from now, don't hold too much weight to it. But if they're saying something is going to happen in the next 2 weeks, the likelihood goes way, way up, because Gurman was the one who said that the iPhone event is going to be on a Monday and it's going to be announced here. And then he said, October is not going to have an event. It's going to be site refreshes. And then he was like, the site refresh will be this Tuesday. And that was all right. So last minute stuff tends to be more accurate. I'm trying to think, when will M1 not be fast enough? Well, nothing will ever be truly fast enough until we can export videos and content instantly. Until then, there's always room for improvement for businesses or entrepreneurs. Time is money, so the faster you can get that video done, the faster you can deliver it to a client, the less time it takes you, and that means more time you can work on other projects. So there's always advantages and benefits to computers getting faster. I tried Apple News Plus for the curiosity, scrolled through the app to see the benefits, saw nothing was truly different, and canceled my free trial a minute later. That pretty much sums up my first Apple News Plus free trial too. That was my experience. I was like, I can't even justify using this for free. Like, I can't even use the Apple News app with News Plus, even if it didn't cost anything. I just don't like the way they collect articles and how they push journalism. I just prefer using Twitter. It's a lot easier to get the newest articles, the latest news at the top. Apple News used to be pretty good. When they first launched it, they put all the latest news at the top, and then you work your way down. And then they completely broke it, and now every time I try to use it, it's just stuffed with ads for Apple News Plus. And then you get Apple News Plus, and barely anything's different. You just get to open a few different articles, and some of those articles have GIFs in them. And it's like, this is $10 a month? Like, yeah, no, it's ridiculous. I've owned every model of iPad Pro, but the M2 is probably the first one I'll skip. Wow, every model. Yeah, it's definitely the most skippable version, that's for sure. Chris Norton says, I love your live streams. I'm now super chatting from my PC. I'm using my iPhone 11 Pro. Oh, okay. Gotcha. Yeah, when you super chat through a browser instead of through the YouTube app, I get to keep more of the super chat. If you super chat through the iOS app, then Apple gets a cut of the donation. So I end up with about half of what you donate, which I'm still grateful for. I'm not saying you shouldn't do it. I'm just explaining to you that if you want to make a donation and have more of it go to me, it's better to do it on a browser, which would be probably easiest from a computer. I use Apple News a lot because I'm an English teacher major and I find it easy to use and read. I don't use Apple News Plus, though. Well, good for you. I'm happy it works for you, Nick. I just prefer, in my line of work, it's pretty important to figure out what news articles are the latest and what time has passed since they posted it. And I hated how many ads were on Apple News. It was getting absurd how many. It was like I couldn't scroll one page without getting an Apple News Plus promotion. The 10th gen iPad only exists to justify the higher end iPad. So Ryan's theory is that it's a decoy model. iPad 10 is supposed to make you want to buy the iPad Air, which has the worst placement for the camera. Ugh, Apple. I don't understand you. Let's see. No one should ever pay for news. There's way better ways to get news than paying for it. I agree. In the digital age, in the age of information where everybody can share knowledge super quick, the value of paywalled journalism, I think, has dropped substantially. Like, you're going to pay a certain journalist site just so that the article will be written a little bit better or with a bit more of a narrative or something. It's like, okay, well, you're not paying for the news then. You're paying for someone to tell you the news in a more artistic way. But when I had Apple's News Plus and I was reading the articles on News Plus, I did not find them much more insightful or like they were providing a lot more information than the free news was. It didn't feel like they were that much more creative or that much better. I find the news itself to be too depressing. That's why I just follow tech stuff. The political world is just depressing and sad. But I love following Apple news and Tesla news and SpaceX news, is because most of that, at least, there's occasionally politics gets in the middle of it, but for the most part, it's primarily like about exciting developments with how is this product going to get better? How's the iPhone going to improve? How is this going to get better? Thank you for the super chat, Chris. He says, oh, I already read that. I love it when you stream. I have an iPhone 11 Pro. 11 Pro is a great phone. A friend of mine, is not a super techie guy. He's the kind of guy that wants to use his iPhone until it's basically not going to work anymore. And he had an iPhone 8 Plus, um, like recently, not that long ago. And he was like, yeah, it's okay. The camera is acting up, or he had some issue with it. I can't remember what it was. The battery health, I think, had deteriorated quite a bit because it's over 5 years old now. And he was like, I want to get something, but I don't want to drop, big money. He was trying to be financially wise with his next iPhone purchase. So he decided to he did a pretty big brain move that I don't see a lot of people do. I would say most people, at least in the tech community that I can see, are nervous about buying broken devices. But he bought a broken iPhone 11 Pro Max in gold, and it was pretty cheap. It was like $170, but the glass was shattered. Just the front glass. That was it. So he went to iPhone repair place, and he got the screen replaced for like $100 or something. So out of pocket, he had spent around $300 or a little bit under $300, and he got like a pretty decent condition, like 11 Pro Max with a brand new glass front, so no scratches or scuffs or anything. So he told me that, and I was like, "Well, that's kind of smart. Like, that's not a bad idea because the 11 Pro Max is what the same phone my dad uses, who just joined in the chat. Hey, I look fallish. Thank you. This was a gift, actually. Someone ordered some clothes online, a friend of ours, and they got the wrong clothes in the mail, and they offered to send the clothes back, but the shipper was like, no, just keep it. So they were like, we have these like plaid looking flannels, and they asked it, do you want one? Because we don't need it. And so I was like, sure. So it literally cost me nothing, which is nice. Yeah, every time I pick up an iPhone with the rounded chassis, I'm like, ooh, that feels so. I'm kind of eager to see Apple go back to that. I'm tempted to wait to upgrade my iPhone until they go back to the rounded chassis, which they probably will out of just sheer boredom at some point. I love the design of my Series 7. I love the display spilling over the edge. And if they got the bezel as thin as it is on the watch on a phone, oh, that would be a very clean looking phone. And at that point, it's all dynamic island and uh, all day battery life, super fast chip, and hopefully USB-C. After how many years should one upgrade their Apple Watch? I'm using Series 7. I mean, there's not a one size fits all. There's not one answer, but I think a healthy amount would be like every 3 to 4 years, maybe more if you can get by. It's like it's to your advantage if you can live with an older tech product. It's not like it's a bad thing if you're comfortable. Like my wife still uses a Series 3. She's happy with it. She has no interest in upgrading it. She's like, no, it works. It gets the job done. So most of the time I would say like just hold on to your Apple Watch until the battery doesn't last you through the day anymore. If that's when the Apple Watch starts to become more of a hindrance, is like, okay, it can't even tell the time after lunch. If after lunch it's dead because the battery has degraded so much, maybe at that point it's good to look around for a good deal on one. Um, but unless there's a new Apple Watch that comes out that has a feature that you think you'll really appreciate. Like for some, the Apple Watch Ultra had the action button and the dual GPS frequencies and the hiking compass marker mode. And there's all these advantages that the Apple Watch Ultra got. So it was like, hey, if you care about those features and your old watch can't do it, then yeah, you can kind of justify it. But for me, at least, there was nothing really the Ultra had to offer that I could utilize or do anything with. So, and I just didn't really think it looked that pretty. I thought the Series 7 looked better aesthetically. But some people are like, I want a battery that can last me several days on a charge, and the Apple Watch Ultra can do that, and my Series 7 can't. So for those people, the Ultra made a lot of sense. Do you think Apple will ditch the charging port completely? I'm guessing someday, but not that soon. I think it would be very controversial, and it would create a whole lot of e-waste if they went the portless route now to abide by the EU law thing. Um, and I think the context is important of how they answered that question. It's like if devices like we expect smartphones to adopt USB-C is basically how the Wall Street Journal interviewer phrased it. They were like, "So, are you going to follow through with this?" And then he gave a long answer saying, "We'll have to comply. We don't have a choice." That's why I think most people interpreted that as the iPhone is getting USB-C, because she didn't say, if a phone has a port, you have to use USB-C. She said, when she phrased it in the interview, she was like, "So, all phones have to have USB-C. Are you gonna honor that?" And they were like, "Basically, yeah." Uh, but essentially, there's a lot of disadvantages to going portless, and not that many advantages. All you get to say is like, I guess it looks a little cleaner. Maybe you can make the battery life a little bit longer. Maybe the phone's a tad more water resistant, but it makes it kind of more awkward to use while charging. It makes all of the Lightning accessories not work anymore. Wired CarPlay or Lightning headphones or Lightning microphones some people have bought. Like all this stuff becomes useless. USB-C is the only solution that would not require all Lightning accessories to become pointless. Like you could very easily, just like you're already making a Lightning to USB-C adapter for the Apple Pencil 1, except instead of female on both sides, you just do female to male. You could convert every Lightning cable into a USB-C cable very easily. I think that would be the least amount of e-waste possible, is to just ship all the USB-C iPhones with an adapter and say, put this on your Lightning cable. And boom, even if it's a 5-watt Lightning cable, it can easily convert to a USB-C cable. MagSafe everything, for one, it's less efficient. It doesn't charge as quickly, and it requires a higher wattage brick. You would have to make sure that everybody uses a 20-watt brick, which not everybody does. Your CarPlay stuff would not work. You couldn't carry over Lightning headphones or Lightning microphones. Through those USB-C adapters, though, you could make use of all that stuff. Pretty much all your clothes cost nothing. That's true, Dan. Well, we went to the thrift store and bought most of the t-shirts I use now. They were very cheap, but they weren't nothing. Uh, but yeah, I think long term, like at some point in the next 50 years, they'll probably make a portless iPhone, sure. But in the meantime, I think it makes a lot more sense to just adopt the best port that we have right now, which is Type C. What do you think of the solid state buttons leak? What use does it have? How will you use your phone with a case? Yeah, that's one I don't entirely believe quite yet. I'm sure Apple's working on it. That doesn't surprise me if they have a prototype of it. Will that make it to mass production? There's still a lot of time to decide, but I do imagine it adding a lot of complexity, because from what I heard, they said that the iPhone with the solid state buttons was going to have additional taptic engines. And I was like, adding additional taptic engines, is this really going to save more space than just the button? I've seen teardowns. I know how the buttons work. It's just this little piece of plastic that you're clicking in on when you click on the buttons. It's not that hard. What happened to all the merch shirts? We gave away most of them to other people or donated them. Uh, but yeah, it's like if you're replacing little thin pieces of plastic with taptic engines, I don't really see how that's more space efficient or more luxurious in any way. I don't really get it. Um, I feel like that's one of those things that might end up changing before the iPhone 15 actually launches. It's definitely not a selling point in my view. That doesn't make me want to buy the iPhone 15 knowing the buttons are going to be fake clicking. They're not real clicking. 3 taptic engines to save space? Yeah, no, that would waste space. Whoa! Oh my gosh, Chris, that's too generous of you. I hope that was an intentional super chat, because you didn't say anything, but I appreciate it. Let's see. Force Exogenesis says, my mom's Apple Watch first generation finally died today. I mean, they may be a bit overpriced, but wow, that's an insane life for a smartwatch. 7 years. Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize there were still people using the OG Apple Watch because I thought the battery life would be basically impractical as soon as it can't get you through the day. Do you really want to charge a smartwatch that dies halfway through the day and then you can't use it after that point? It's like, what's the point of having a watch if it can't tell you time through a decent chunk of the day? Doesn't make sense to me. But message to Chris Norton: come with real ID, Elon Musk. What? Is, yeah, is Chris Norton's wallet is leaking, I think. But thank you so much. Um, oh, Peter Holloway says I'm using the first gen Apple Watch SE and it works great. Oh, okay. I just saw where the chat I was reading said I'm using the first gen Apple Watch, and I was like, what? And then it's SE. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's not very old. I plan on trying to hold on to my Series 7 for a really long time. Honestly, when I got the Series 4, I was not very impressed with the Series 5, so I was like, yeah, I'm just going to keep using the 4 because I don't care about the always-on display, and that was pretty much the only noticeable change. Only reason I got the Series 6, I didn't think I was going to get the Series 6, but someone offered me a really good deal on the Series 4, and it was basically I was going to make money by selling my Series 4 and buying the Series 6. Someone was like, I really like that the one I had was the silver stainless steel. They were like, I like that look. Can I buy that watch for you for like $500? And it wasn't that old at the time. And the Series 6 that I was buying for the channel to review that I wasn't intending on keeping, I bought that and it cost like 400 something dollars. So basically, by keeping the Series 6, I was going to have a color I really liked because it was the red aluminum. And I always wanted a red Apple Watch. And they finally made one. And I was like, yes. And then I was going to gain, 60, $70 by having a newer Apple Watch. So I was like, sure. This guy wanted the stainless steel Series 4 at a discounted price. So help him out, get a newer watch. So if it weren't for that transaction, if it weren't for that offer someone gave me, I wouldn't have kept the Series 6. And then Series 7, I really loved just because the display was so big and it made me use my watch a lot more regularly because I could actually text people on the QWERTY keyboard. And I still do that. I've done that several times today already. And it just made the Apple Watch feel far more functional to me, and it just looked so much better. So that's why I kind of went all out with the graphite, because I was like, I want to keep this for the long haul. And I sold the Series 6 because it was showing signs of wear on the glass. So I didn't sell it for much. It was, I think, 300 something bucks, or like, it wasn't as much as I didn't make money on that sale. But because it was the Ion X glass, not the sapphire glass, it was kind of showing signs of age. And I made sure the next buyer was aware of that and they didn't mind. But let's see. Apple didn't include a USB-C cable for the Apple TV. I mean, iPhone users will buy Apple TV and they have Lightning cables, so Apple wants them to buy USB-C cables separately. No, you're missing the point, Anav. The point is that most people already have USB-C cables somewhere in their life. That's the whole beauty of USB-C. Have you bought any newer generation iPad in the past 4 years? You probably have a USB-C cable. Has anyone in the house recently bought a GoPro in the past 5 years? You have a USB-C cable. Has anyone in the house bought a USB-C hard drive? If anybody in the house bought a MacBook in the past 5 years, there are USB-C cables around. That's why you don't need to include a USB-C cable with the Siri remote. And they don't even include an HDMI cable with the Apple TV. So the Type-C cable would be kind of awkward and weird if they did include it. Thank you, Zach, for the super chat. Hey, Drew, hope you had / have a good day. I have. Thank you very much for saying that. It's been a good day for me. Waiting for the return of a blue Apple Watch before I upgrade. Oh, okay. There should be some in the future. But now that I've got the beautiful Series 7, and it's the sapphire glass, so it's aged perfectly. There's not a single scratch or scuff on the front. I'm planning on holding on to this for quite a while because it works, and the Ultra didn't really do anything for me. The Series 8 is like barely an upgrade. There's like hardly any changes there. And they're probably not going to redesign the Apple Watch for a while. And even if they did the squared off edge design, I don't think that looks as good. I still personally would prefer this compared to the renders that people made of what a squared off Apple Watch would look like. The bezels look thicker. The chassis seems like it cuts into your wrist a bit more. So I don't really care about any redesign. At this point, they'd have to come up with something really interesting to get me to upgrade my Series 7. Because right now, I can't think of anything they could do. Oh, except, sorry, I forgot. My one weakness, my final and end all be all weakness, 120 hertz. I gotta have it. There is currently no way to get 120 hertz on the Apple Watch, so I'm comfortable keeping my Series 7 until there is a way. But if eventually one day the Series 9 or the Series 10 comes out with ProMotion on a watch, they got me. I don't have a choice. It's not up to me. It's like, it's just what I have to do. My iPad is 120 hertz. My MacBook, my phone, everything has to be 120 hertz. And I can't say no to that. It doesn't matter what it costs. So Apple, please, whenever you do a ProMotion Apple Watch, keep the price relatively low, because it's going to suck that like all of that money on my wallet is just going to immediately be gone. The second they open it and the new Apple Watch has a ProMotion display, it's gone. Boom. Just like that. And Katrina Bryce says, even my hair straighteners use a USB-C cable to charge. Exactly. Type-C is everywhere. The likelihood that your household does not have a single USB-C cable is very low. Especially if you're the type of person to buy the new Apple TV. Chris Norton super chatted again. Oh my God. He says, my wallet's not leaking. I forgot to paste. My iPhone 11 Pro costs £8 a month. An iPhone 14 would cost £43. So got my screen fixed. Okay, fair enough. That's a lot cheaper. I still think the 11 Pro is a great phone for those who have it. They seem to like it. And the battery life, it felt like the peak design of the rounded chassis era, you know, that started with the iPhone 6. You got night mode on that phone. You got really good battery life. You got telephoto. You got ultra wide. You got the frosted glass. Oh, just across the board. That was like peak design of that era. So I understand why a lot of people still use the 11 Pro. Anab says, what's your unpopular opinion on Metaverse? I'm beginning to think it's not that unpopular, but I think the whole thing is stupid. I might do a video on it next week, dependent on how much Apple news there is. Because I know everybody wants me to just talk Apple, but sometimes Apple's not doing very much. So that's what I mean by the channel kind of goes into hibernation mode. It means that Tailosive Tech will have to make videos on non-Apple subjects when Apple's not doing much, because even a low-performing video is better than no video. And it's a good time. It gives me a chance to go into other fields, go into other subjects that I find interesting, but I don't have much of a chance to talk about because I'm working on Apple stuff primarily, because I know that's what you guys want to talk about. So when Apple gets quiet, other opinions start to come out, and I just think the whole metaverse thing is completely ridiculous and unnecessary, and I don't think the market for it is very big at all, and I think it's a complete waste of time and money. But that's just me. If only the Ultra has ProMotion, would you trade design for 120 hertz? Ooh. Dang it. I hate that question, Dylan. You got to make me choose. I mean, the Ultra wasn't bad looking. I don't think it's that ugly. I mean, it's ugly, but intentionally. It knows what it is. It's trying to be the rugged, durable watch. But I really like 120 hertz, so man, I don't know. That would be a tough call. I could probably get used to it on the Ultra. Like when I reviewed the Apple Watch Ultra, I wore that for like a week and a half or so, and I got used to it. I got comfortable with it. After a few days, it just became my watch again, and I wasn't really thinking about it as I was using it. It just, that's my Apple Watch. That's just, I used it the way I used my Series 7. So I could probably come around to it. But if it was, I would have to emphasize that like this is definitely my last watch for a while. Like the only reason I could see myself, if Apple just never adds ProMotion to the Apple Watch, I could see myself keeping the Series 7 until the battery is degraded to the point that it can't last me through the day. If my battery won't last me through a day, then that makes the entire watch a lot more useless. It's like, okay, it's dead. Now it's just hanging on my wrist. If every single day it can't hold up, but I feel like that would be a long time because now that low power mode has rolled out, I've been getting, if I need it, I don't always need it, but on some days I just know like I visited Mike for his Halloween party last week, and I knew I was going to be spending the night at his house. So, and we were packing, we were kind of busy packing stuff, and my wife was like, "Hey, make sure to pack the chargers." So I just grabbed MagSafe Duo because I know that my phone is going to charge in the car. So my phone has a over 24-hour battery life, at least with my workflow. So I knew that I would arrive at Mike's place with a full charge, so I didn't need to charge my phone. And I was gonna let my wife charge her phone and her watch on MagSafe Duo. So I just packed MagSafe Duo, and I knew I'd come back the next day. So I just put my Apple Watch in low power mode, and I put it on, that morning. Lasted all the way till the evening, and it was even when I woke up the next day, didn't take the watch off. I wore it to bed. The next day I woke up and it's at 55% after like basically 24 hours of wearing it. And it was still not even dead when I got home, which we got home pretty late because we were, visiting with people and traveling, stopping at families' places on the way home. So I still got home with like 25 or 30% charge. So if in the future I needed to, I could just keep the Apple Watch in low power mode like all the time. But I'm not there yet because even when it's not in low power mode, I can still last 2 days on a charge. And with low power mode, I can probably get to 3.5, maybe 4 days on a charge, depending on which watch face I use. This is a very power efficient watch face because very few pixels light up. So I switch to that when I'm trying to save on energy. So way down the road, maybe 6, 7 years go by, if they still don't have promotion, I'd be like, okay, need to upgrade the watch. And then I would probably still go with the sapphire glass, the cheapest watch with sapphire glass, which I don't think would be the Ultra. Um, 11 Pro is one of the best iPhones ever made. Yeah, that's true. Um, Decided to buy the iPhone SE 2020, first trying the feel of the haptic home button, and buy 12 Pro Max after saving a lot of money. There you go. iPhone SE 2020 is a decent buy. SE3 not so much, but the SE2 is what my wife uses, and she took it out of her case recently, and I held it, and I was like, this is like, it's so comfortable. Like the glass feels good and the aluminum feels good. Like this does not feel like a cheap phone, even though you can buy that for like $200 now. Um, have you noticed spammers on YouTube in a while? Yes, I banned like 12 of them yesterday. Let's see. I miss your reviews last rant on Android phones. I know, but I can't just rant about nothing. That's the problem. And I need there to be something genuinely like mind-boggling or bad in order for me to justify doing a rant video. And there's not much that's come up in the Android space that I think is rant worthy. Um, let's see. What's the difference in your channel memberships? You get like behind the scenes polls where you can vote on what the next video will be on, and live streams of me filming and editing, and you get to know what the next video is going to be on, and you get the badge next to your name, and then the higher tier Tailosive Tech Pro makes you a moderator on the chat. Um, any thoughts on the rumored haptic buttons on the iPhone 15 Ultra? I feel like it's a waste of time. I think it would add complexity and make the iPhone harder to factory reset and harder to manufacture for very little payoff. It would also make phone cases likely a lot more complicated. Um, I guess there's probably a way you can make something pressure sensitive but not require a finger to be push. It feels like reinventing the wheel. It's like, what advantages does that offer? If someone could explain to me like this would make the iPhone better at blank, I would be like, okay, then that would be good. But I can't think of anything. The Pixel 7 is bad because it got a big hunchback. I actually think the camera bump design on the Pixel 6 and 7 is really good, and I wish the iPhones would copy it. But I can't rant about that. It's a lot easier for me to rant about Apple products because Apple's making a lot of poor decisions, in my opinion. So I rant about what I'm passionate about. And I'm not that passionate about Android. I don't love them. I don't love what Google is doing or Samsung. And I don't hate what they're doing. It's just, there's not much. It's not much I'm super passionate about, but I got to wrap up here soon. Chris Norton super chatted again, saying 11 Pro is great. I've had it for 3 years. I hope you can have it for another 3 years. To be honest, I want people to get the absolute most use out of their phone if possible. Okay, and last super chat from Bulbs Galore. Thank you for the donation. Would you buy a HomePod with a screen if it had ProMotion? If they let me connect it to my Spotify account, or if they let you use third-party streaming services, then yes. But they don't currently, so I'm not going to pay for Apple Music just for. Sorry, no. I draw the line there. That's where I say no. I don't need promotion. But anyway, I could do this all day if I'm not careful. So I appreciate all the super chats today, all our new channel members as well. I'll see you guys in the members only streams. Thank you for joining Tailosive Tech Plus. And I'm going to get to work on making the podcasts, which the channel members, Tailosive Tech Plus, gets to listen to the podcast early. So just something to think about. Thank you all for tuning in today. Hope you have an excellent weekend, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye.